Get ready for full tilt pro bass action. Winning tips and techniques. Inside info and tournament strategies to make you a better bass angler. Big fish, hot sticks, and serious money on the line. This is the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Invitational Bass Tour. Brought to you by Columbia Sportswear, Triton Boats, and Mercury Marine. Now, let's let her rip. Vermilion. Named for the vivid red color of the iron-rich earth, the lake is a pristine gem set in the heart of Minnesota's fabled Arrowhead region. Carved more than 12,000 years ago, Vermilion is a remnant of the Great Ice Age. As the continental glaciers receded, laying bare the bedrock of the Laurentian Shield, the lake was left ringed and dotted with outcroppings of some of the oldest rock on the face of the planet. This is true wilderness. Here, where once woolly mammoth and muskox dwelled, now is home to the moose, bear, and timber wolf. Nearly 300 years ago, French voyageurs plied Vermilion's waters and harvested her furs. Today, the true treasure of the Shield country is its near-virgin beauty. Bordered on the east by the closely protected Boundary Waters canoe area, Lake Vermilion is as close as a bass boat will ever get to fish untouched by motorized means. And the bass up here are eager and plentiful. Largemouth are present, skirting the northernmost boundaries of their range. But it's the smallmouth that thrive here, perhaps the most prolific population in the United States.
I might have a couple bigger than this on the other side, possibly.
A fitting location indeed for the championship round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour. Here, 40 pros and 10 amateurs, the cream of the point-standing crop, will vie for cash and bragging rights. These anglers have battled their way to the top of the field in 4 regular season tournaments. Last spring, on the Mississippi River's Lake Pepin, rising water forced anglers to change game plans on tournament day. The weather was clear and calm, but the pre-spawn fish had been displaced almost overnight by debris-filled floodwaters. The winning pattern came on a current break created by a rock and sand shoal. First place finisher Pat Martin put a 1-2 presentation together by working the current with a rattling Rapala, followed by a fast retrieved spinnerbait thrown by his partner. Round 2 on the whitefish chain greeted anglers with post-spawn fish in transition from spring to summer locations. While there were some fish still shallow, a tourney day cold front had forced them deep. Dean Capra, this season's Angler of the Year, won that tournament by locating a school of bass holding on a deep, newly emerging weed bed. He tied up a Texas rig with a thunderbolt and plastic worm to put the winning bag in the box. Milfoil-choked Minnetonka was the venue for round 3. At summer peak, Tonka's giant largemouth were expected to come from beneath the dense weed canopy or maybe off the docks, but that's not what happened. Far from the crowd, Brad Klein had found a rocky shoreline loaded with bass. He was able to score early on active fish with his roller jig presentation, then patiently pick off some larger, less active fish with a soft plastic stick bait. For the final round on Brainerd's Gull Lake, summer peak was winding down, and fishing was fast and furious everywhere. Deep weeds, docks, channels, and slop were all giving up big bags of bass. Tourney winner Brad Leiferman had started up shallow in the wild rice, only to find his big fish had fled the scene. Brad worked most of the day to find a better school, and his efforts finally paid off. He located some deep weed fish and used a jig and craw and culprit jigworm to pop the winning bag. Here on Vermilion, only one man will walk away victorious, with the check, the trophy, a new Triton bass boat and Mercury outboard, and the championship crown. This is the big one, and these guys are the best. Let's see how it all unfolds in the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Tournament of Champions. Welcome back. We're here on Lake Vermilion for the first day of pre-fishing. With us today to help guide you through the action is renowned angler and educator Al Lindner.
Hi everybody, we're here at the Gander Mountain Pro-Am Championship event on beautiful Lake Vermilion in northern Minnesota. Hey, what a tremendous body of water. It's one of the prettiest lakes in the entire state, but more importantly, it's got a lot of great fishing opportunities. Lots of different kind of patterns. There's dockfish, there's pointfish, there's rockfish, there's weedfish, there's shallowfish, there's deepfish, there's woodfish. And these guys are trying to pattern both the largemouth and the smallmouth. Let's get some ideas of what they're looking at, what they expect.
Right now I'm targeting smallmouth. I've been targeting largemouth all morning. This evening I thought I needed a little bit of a backup, so I'm going to go after some smallmouth. I figured I better check out a few of the docks just in case I need to have them.
Well, I'm going for the multi-species deal. I'm trying for both largemouth and smallmouth.
Usually the smallies will weigh more if you can get them. So if you can get the smallies, I wouldn't even bother with the large ones.
I'm basically targeting the smallmouth on this lake because this is basically a smallmouth factory, at least this end of the lake. You can see them on the locator, you know. I just said, wait a minute, I got to get them to bite. So here they are.
Sometimes you can win strictly with smallmouth, sometimes strictly with largemouth, but normally it takes a mixed bag to win this tournament.
Although both largemouth and smallmouth bass are present throughout Vermilion, the two distinct sides of the lake are known to hold higher concentrations of each species. Largemouth on the west side, smallmouth on the east. Because of the sheer expanse of the lake, most anglers will have to decide which end to fish on each day of this two-day event. But which side, which day, which species?
On Lake Vermilion, it's such a big lake, you can't fish the whole lake. You're just going to have to take pieces of it at a time. And basically what I do is I just section the lake off, and I know in the course of 10 or 12 hours how much I can fish. And once I catch some fish and start to get a pulse for an area, then I'll concentrate more and start figuring things out.
Because of the differences between the two species, we'll be seeing plenty of variety in presentations. Largemouth tend to be shallow this time of year, relating to shoreline vegetation and structure. Look for the bigmouth boys to be working slop, reeds, pads, and docks.
But I sure wish I had them in a tournament instead of in practice.
The guys gunning for smallies, on the other hand, will be working deeper, playing rocky humps and shoreline breaks.
I just happened to come across this hump that wasn't on the map. And came back when it was calm with the camera, and they're pretty much all over down there. So I'm gonna come back tomorrow and see if I can't get 5 of the good ones out of here and leave a bunch for Saturday and try to win this thing.
Mostly gonna be focusing on 2 types of structure, both shallow. Laydowns, wood, any type of wood I can find seems to be holding some nicer fish, as well as the slop and the pads.
You got a great dock system up here, these crib docks. Really hold a lot of fish. You know, the only drawback is the water's low this time of year. It's about the lowest I've seen it.
I'm targeting today reeds with some lily pads and cabbage around them. That seems to have been where my fish have been paying off today.
But there's another pattern on Vermilion that could produce a furious bite, the Cisco factor. Huge schools of these tasty morsels roam just under the surface in open water, oftentimes luring the smallmouth off their deep, rocky haunts. You've heard the term feeding frenzy? This is what they're talking about. And the topwater bite can be incredible.
Come on, baby. There he is. I got him. Oh, no, he took the bait and he lost it.
The trick is to be in the right place at the right time.
It's one of them deals where smallies, I found a spot, I found a hump with them on it, and I don't know if they're going to be there for the tournament. They're one of them things where they just come off it, and they come on it, and they come off it, and come on it. Went to 2 spots today where they were there last week, and they're not there today. So I don't know where they are, but I will still check those areas in the tournament.
So many options, so many conditions that dictate presentation. Weather, water clarity, temperature. Pre-fishing is all about putting a pattern together, and that's not always easy.
Looks like they've had an algae bloom here, at least on part of the lake. It's real green and mucky, and I'll be using a dark colored jig going in along the logs, just trying to pay attention to what they're telling me to do.
We're up here in early September, and the water temperature has dropped quite a bit from late summer, and some presentations that worked well in the early spring are coming back around, jerk baits, spinner baits.
Largemouth, smallmouth, shallow, deep, and in between. Compared to the 4 regular season tournaments, this one is a dream come true for tackle store owners. We'll have guys working shallow with frogs and lizards and topwaters, pitching docks with light jigs and tubes, covering cabbage with rattlebaits and spinnerbaits. Moving deeper, we'll see guys throwing jig worms and plastic swimming baits, tossing brush jigs in the wood, working suspending jerkbaits and Texas rig worms and craws. On the deep rocks, look for anglers to be smacking bottom with deep diving cranks and working Carolina and drop shot rigs. In a nutshell, if it catches bass, it'll get wet this weekend.
You know, one thing about this lake, it's just huge. It's almost impossible to cover it all. So you kind of have to pick an area and try to find out what the fish are doing in that particular area. Then look at the map and see if there's other areas that are similar to what you've been catching your fish on. And that's about the easiest way to make it more manageable, because if you come out here and just start trying to cover shoreline or something, you ain't gonna get too far, even in 3-4 days, because there's miles and miles and miles of shoreline.
So get ready for a free-for-all. We'll be back right after this for day one action in the championship round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour. As the sun peers over the pines on the pristine Canadian Shield, anxious anglers await the big day. This time they'll be fishing alone, without the benefit of a partner. They'll be making their own calls, netting their own fish, and only one man will emerge victorious. As the competitors prepare for takeoff from Timbuktu Resort, located dead center between Vermilion's two main bodies, the first decision comes up quick: east side or west. Because one thing's for sure, nobody's going straight. Go west, young man, to largemouth country. Early on, we find David Hardig working a rocky bank in Wake-em-Up Narrows, an appropriate place to start the day. He'd found fish here in practice, but it's slower than he'd hoped.
You'd think with this wind blowing in here, they'd just start to turn on.
Derek Hokanen, one of only 10 amateurs to make the cut, is already tearing them up with 3 bass already in the box. These creaky old covered structures provide optimum cover and maximum shade and can hold dozens of fish. Thanks to this one, Derek is well on his way to an early limit. In this 2-day tournament format, anglers are allowed to weigh 5 fish per day. Numbers shouldn't be a problem, as Vermilion's west side seems to be producing plenty of largemouth. But where are the big ones? You can't win this one with a bag of peanuts. Michael Carter pretty much sums it up.
We're kind of in the midst of a bonanza. They're not big enough fish, but it sure is fun. Getting tired out.
Carter heads east, and his move pays off almost immediately. Looks like he's gotten into some bigger bass. Of all the anglers who ventured west, Ron Linder is the only one who managed to find a school of big largemouth.
Got about 13.5, 14 pounds now. What I need, of course, is to get to the 15, 16 mark. I just about played this out over here. I'm carrying one that's 2.4 in there. I need some 3-pounders now, and I got one about 5. I need to cull up, and the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to go looking at some browns now. I think I know where they're at.
He's got some good ones in the box, but he's fished out his spot. Time to shift into smallmouth gear. Moving through the Narrows past the Timbuktu weigh-in site, our cameras spot Jeremy Keel. He's working the shallows just around the corner from the landing. What's up with that?
You know, a good tournament fisherman never lets adversity get to him. Jeremy blew up his motor this morning, yet he still is cranked up can be. He's fishing like a machine. He's already got about 12 pounds. A lot of guys would have just threw up their hands and said, party's over, I'm done. It would be really cool to see him cash a big-time check after that.
Good luck, Jeremy. We'll stop back later to see how he's doing. After all, we know right where to find him. As we follow the eastward migration, we come upon Carl Dreyhouse working deep smallies out on East Vermilion's Big Bay. He's had some going, but the big ones just aren't here.
It's not much of a fish, but it's 5.
Carl's off to look for chunkier fish. Moving ever eastward, we spot Scott Seaton fishing just outside the city of Tower. He's having a pretty good day working deep smallmouth, despite a slow start.
This morning started off really slow for me. But I went to an area that I knew I had a lot of confidence in. There were some fish there, and I got lucky. I got one fish that I didn't think I was ever going to catch. I got 5 fish. Just got to get rid of one fish. There we go. That's what we needed.
Here's Carl Dreyhouse again. His move has paid off with a good group of larger fish. Doug Copeland is on a similar pattern, smallies on deep rocks. The deep smallmouth bite seems to have emerged as the big fish pattern of the day, and Grant Miller has been into it big time. He's got a good 5-fish limit for day one, and he's confident of a strong showing.
I got 2 fish like that, 3 other good ones. I know the potential on the spot, so I'm just gonna kind of hang out here. I'm not gonna really fish a lot more. Try to save them for the second day. I know it's kind of risky, but you know, I know there's a ton of fish here, and hopefully I can hit them just as good tomorrow.
Well, it's getting to be about that time. With 40,000 acres to cover, anglers will have to start packing it up to get back to the 3 o'clock weigh-in. Looks like Seton may have to start early. Hey, Scott, you sure you brought enough rods? Back at Timbuktu for the day one weigh-in. How'd everybody do? Al's waiting on stage for the first group of anglers to hit the scales. And early indications are the boys have put together some pretty good bags. A blown motor had kept Jeremy Keel close to home today, but sometimes bad luck leads to good.
Actually, my biggest largemouth and my biggest smallmouth came on the wiggle wire at the same time.
At the same time, did you mean both on the same bag?
Yep, they both. One was on the front hook and one was on the back hook.
We're going to come back on that. Let's get a weight. We got a good catch of fish here. 12.99. Not bad for a guy that didn't have a motor most of the day.
Keel sets the mark at $12.99. Back on the docks, Corey Gutenfelder hauls out a good bag, while Jim Severson follows close behind. And check out Grant Miller. He can't wait to show off his big piglets. On stage, Brian Krause.
Got a good bag of fish coming in. Be kind to him. You could have hit
12.90.
12.90.
He misses by just 9/100ths of a pound, but he's right in there. Waiting in the wings, tournament director John Hesse bags up Brad Klein's fish as Paul Lewis hits the scales.
Okay, you got what looks like a pretty good bag of fish here. Good catch of fish here, folks. Listen up, we got a good bag here. 13.42 for Paul Lewis.
13.42, a new leader. Next up, Brad Klein.
Spot on 8 or 9 keepers for a total weight of 13.48. Good catch, man. Good catch of fish.
Klein ekes out the lead by just 6/100ths of a pound. This race is heating up. As Jim Severson waits in line, bagging up his catch, Corey Gutenfelder steps up for the verdict.
13.39, Corey.
13.39. That'll get Corey into third place. Here's Severson. He couldn't connect with a deep smallie bite and was forced into some last-minute largemouth.
Yeah, I fished for a smallie till about 12:30 today, and I fished for largemouth for an hour and a half, and this is what I got.
12.88, not bad for an hour and a half of largemouth fishing.
A swing and a miss, but not by much. There's only about half a pound separating the top 6 places. It's getting tight. Just off stage, Grant Miller is fired up as he lugs his big bag of bruisers up to the scales.
Do we have the makings of a new leader there? Do you think so, Gare? I think we got the possibility of a new leader here. Grant, we got to beat. Oh, I think we got some activity here, folks. 16.04, all browns?
All browns.
16.04. Miller's 5 big brownies blow the lid off the lead by more than 2.5 pounds. Pretty tough act to follow, but here's Jim Smith.
That's a pretty good bag of fish. I think there's more than you think there is. 14.51, man. Good catch. Second place right now.
Thank you.
Now there are only 2 guys left who could challenge the lead. Brent Carlson with a good load of smallies, and Ron Lindner with some big largemouth. Brent goes first.
We've taken a guess that we got a new third place. How about a new 14.30? 14.30 for Brent. Great catch of fish, man. Where does that move him to? Third place. Boy, am I good. The older I get, the better I can get them.
Next up, Al's big brother Ron. And look at the size of that horse.
Oh, brother Ron, he still knows how to catch some fish. The old man can still put a good fish in a boat.
Ron was one of the few anglers to find big fish on the west side of the lake.
13.69. That keeps you in a hunt run. I'm guessing you're in the top 8 about with 13.69.
His bag won't bump the lead, but he does take big fish honors for the day with his lunker largemouth. So there you have it for day one. As it stands, Grant Miller is on top with his big smallies. Jim Smith had a mix of smallmouth and largemouth for second, and Brand Carlson squeezes in just ahead of Ron Linder for third. If you thought day one was exciting, you ain't seen nothing yet. Stick around for a sneak peek at some serious day two action coming up right after this. It's been a great first day on Lake Vermilion for this two-day championship event. We've seen shallow water largemouth and deep water smallies both playing key roles in the day one standings. And it's a tight one, with all top 10 places separated by less than the weight of one big bass. So what's up for day two? Take a look.
He's going to get this fish.
Oh. Come on, baby. There he is. I got him. Oh, no, he totally took the bait and he lost it. Oh, he's right there. Big one. That's our kicker right there. Nothing better than the first fish of the day being a kicker fish. Yes! Woo! Yeah! That's the kind of year. It fell out of his mouth.
Now that's bass fishing, and you don't want to miss a single minute of it.
Yes!
Be sure to tune in next week for the action-packed final round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Tournament of Champions. Get ready for full-tilt pro bass action. Winning tips and techniques. Inside info and tournament strategies to make you a better bass angler. Big fish, hot sticks, and serious money on the line. This is the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Invitational Bass Tour. Brought to you by Columbia Sportswear, Triton Boats, and Mercury Marine. Now, let's let her rip. Welcome back to the legendary Arrowhead region of northern Minnesota. We're here on the rocky shores of sprawling Lake Vermilion for the final round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Tournament of Champions, and it's been a tight one so far. If you missed our first round coverage last week, let's take a minute to bring you up to speed. In this two-day championship event, the field consists of 40 pros and 10 amateurs, the top point winners from this year's Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour. Anglers are allowed a limit of 5 bass each day, the championship title to be determined by the heaviest combined two-day bag weight. And unlike the regular season, in this tournament, the competitors are fishing alone, without the benefit of a partner. Day one was a mixed bag, east side versus west side, smallmouth versus largemouth, shallow versus deep. Vermilion's west side holds the predominant largemouth population, and anglers scored early with numbers of black bass. But big fish were few and far between.
We're kind of in the midst of not big enough fish, but it sure is fun. Getting tired out.
Anglers fishing the east side, prime smallmouth water, were finding bigger fish deep, holding on rocky humps, but the bite was considerably slower.
I got 2 fish like that, 3 other good ones. I know the potential on the spot, so I'm just gonna kind of hang out here. I'm not gonna really fish a lot more. Try to save them for the second day. I know it's kind of risky, but you know, I know there's a ton of fish here, and hopefully I can hit them just as good tomorrow.
And day one had its share of problems. Angler of the Year Dean Capra had motor trouble and was forced to borrow an unfamiliar boat.
I don't know what happened, but it ain't no good. At least I'm still fishing. The guys from Timbuktu were nice enough to loan me his boat.
And just after blastoff, Jeremy Keel blew his engine and was confined to fishing the narrows nearby the weigh-in site with only his trolling motor to get him to the fish.
He's already got about 12 pounds. A lot of guys would have just threw up their hands and said, "Party's over, I'm done." It would be really cool to see him cash a big-time check after that.
At the end of the day, the deep smallmouth bite prevailed. Grant Miller's 5 big smallies tipped the scales at 16.04 pounds for the top spot.
16.04.
All browns?
All brown.
Jim Smith stands at second with 14.51, and Brent Carlson is in for third with 14.30.
Third place. Boy,
Today, it's anybody's game. The top 10 finishers are separated by less than the weight of one big fish, and Vermilion's got some bruisers. Plus, now that the boys have day one under their belt, they've pretty much got their patterns and locations established. Now it's just a matter of keying in on the biggest fish. But finding big fish is one thing, catching them is another.
There he is. I got him. Oh no, he's going to put the baby lost it.
Whatever happens, we guarantee you're in for some serious bass action by some of the finest anglers in the Midwest. So don't go away. We'll be back with the final round of the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Tournament of Champions right after this.
Yes.
It's a picture-perfect morning as anglers gather for blast-off at Timbuktu Resort, smack dab in the middle of 40,000-acre Lake Vermilion. Tension is running high because today all the money's on the line.
Game plan for today is going to be just slow down, work the good areas where I caught the big fish yesterday, and hopefully we can turn it around, come from second, get first place, make it happen.
I'm basically fishing one school of fish. I've got other schools to go to if they're not there, but even the first day I fished the same school of fish, but I caught what I felt I needed to stay up in the top three. Worked out I'm in first, but I quit after I got what I thought I needed, so I left it alone. I feel there's at least another 50 fish there, so hopefully it all works out. We'll get them.
At the end of the day, we'll find out who walks away with the check, the trophy, a brand new Triton boat and Mercury outboard, and the championship title.
What a beautiful day two morning. A lot of the fishermen are already to their spots. They're dropping their trolling motors. Somebody's probably setting a hook already. Obviously, smallmouths have had a big impact on this tournament. First place and second place. The interesting thing to me is how many largemouth have been brought in with one really big fish. I know a lot of guys are changing their thinking for day two from day one. We'll see what happens soon. It's a perfect morning for topwater fishing for these big smallmouth. I think we're going to see some big bags of big fish come in today. You couldn't ask for better conditions.
Just as Al said, conditions are perfect for a hot topwater bite, and smallies are blowing up on the surface all over the place. But getting hookups isn't always easy, as Angler of the Year Dean Capra discovers.
He's going to get this fish.
Oh. Come on, baby. There he is. I got him. Oh no, he's going to put the baby lost it. Oh my God. I never set the hook. Oh. Unbelievable.
Despite all the surface activity, Day 1 leader Grant Miller had boated his first place bag on this very same spot with a drop shot rig, and he was sticking to his guns. Fishing deep, he scores early.
Yes. I need 5 of those right there.
And there's number 2 for Miller. Not the biggest fish, but he's off to a strong start.
Not quite what I was looking for.
Jim Smith, in second place going into Day 2, is working docks and reeds for largemouth. Pitching his jig and craw under the lucky fin, he smacks a real horse right off the bat. He may not be finished, but he definitely got lucky.
What we need right there. All right. Now I can just relax a little bit. I got my kicker right off the bat. That always helps. Now I can just, if I go scratch out a decent 2.5 pound limit, I think I'll be right where I was yesterday, and I think I'll be in the running for the first place on this tournament.
Miller hasn't moved. He knows his rock pile is full of smallies, and he's camped right on top of them.
Real good. That's the one we need right there. Same spot as the other good ones. Oh man, that's a fish.
And with his light spinning rig, 6-pound test, and a light wire hook, he's got to pull this big boy out of 14 feet.
Yes! Woo! Yeah!
It fell out of his mouth. Yeah. Oh, baby. It fell out of his mouth. Oh, yeah. Can't stop shaking. How many times are you guys can't stop shaking for? I can't even talk.
Back in the shallows, Jim Smith is popping fish left and right. And with his heavy flipping stick and 20-pound line, he's just heaving them in as fish number 2, 3, and 4 sail into the boat.
What we're doing is fishing these isolated little patches of reeds and bulrushes. A lot of them are in between docks. A lot of guys fish the docks and they just miss fishing all this stuff in between. A lot of times the docks are getting pressured. The fish will back out into these isolated little pockets. It's really one of the keys to my pattern going this weekend. Hopefully it works.
Miller's still working it, and there's number 4.
Yes. Not as big as the other one, but that's a good fish. Whew.
But Miller and Smith aren't the only contenders in this horse race. Vermilion's hot all over.
It's not even 9 o'clock, and Severson's got a nice limit of fish. He had 12 and change yesterday, and he figures he's got well over 13 pounds. He's going to be a player.
Drop shot out here in 20 feet of water. Catching a few good ones. Had a limit by 8 o'clock. I've called a few out. Just waiting for those big ones. I know there's some 4s and 5s down there.
Depending on the area, lots of various presentations have come into play, and they're all producing fish. Doug Copeland's been on a pretty good crankbait bite.
Yes.
You know, it's really interesting. There's going to be some big bags of fish coming. The weather conditions are really right today, and we're running around seeing a lot of the fishermen catch their fish on a lot of different baits. Top water's a factor, cranking is a factor, drop shotting is a factor, and jerkbaiting is a factor. Those 4 seem to be the mainstay. But you'll watch these guys, they'll get on, depending on if they're fishing the top of the rocks or down the sides, how each structure is laid out. They'll come over with a top water bait, they'll do a little jerking, they'll crank over the tip of a point, and they'll drop shot if they come a little bit deeper. And they're catching a few fish on everything. This goes to show you how important it is to always be versatile. And when you're on a structure with a lot of fish, from top to bottom, a variety of different kinds of baits, not just one thing, can be the trick.
I would say I probably got around 15 pounds, maybe 16. I don't think I have anything under 3.
Meanwhile, Paul Lewis is pumping largemouth out of the pads. He gets a good one here, fattening up his ever-burgeoning bag. Grant Miller's still camping, and he hooks into a good one for number 5. Working gingerly with his light line, Grant gets her to the net, and the adrenaline kicks into overdrive.
Yes. Yeah. That's a horse. It isn't as big as the first one, but it's 4 pounds. Yeah. Right in the middle of it, I think. You know, I did the cardinal sin. I didn't check my line after that last fish. Can't be thinking of stuff like that right in the middle of fighting a fish that big. Yes.
That's 5 for Miller, but Jim Smith still needs one more. Frustrated with a slow reed bite, he heads back to the Lucky Fin. You don't suppose St. Erho was a bass fisherman.
$9.18 right now. We got 5 fish. We probably got 12 pounds. We got 1 good kicker, probably 4 3/4, 5. We got to upgrade the rest of our catch, try and get some 3-pounders in the boat, and we'll be sitting all right going into the weigh-in today. So.
We're at the halfway point through day 2, and things are tightening up. So stick around. We'll be back right after this.
Hot dog.
The clock is ticking, and most of the guys have their limits. Everybody's in upgrade mode. Grant Miller is confident with 2 giant smallies in the box.
I told him I was looking for the mother lode. I think I found it. As long as I execute here the rest of the day, there shouldn't be any problem.
Smith has one big horse, but Jim knows he needs to bridge a 1.5 pound gap to overtake the day one leader. Both anglers are catching fish, but nothing to improve their bags. Until now.
That's a good one. Oh, that's a big one. Oh yeah, right there. It's another 4 pounder. Oh man, we are on. Look at the size of that thing. Another giant. Look at that thing. That's 4.5 pounds.
Another whopper largemouth for Smith. This is the fish he needed to mount a charge for the lead. Meanwhile, things have slowed down for Miller.
The bite is a little slower, but there's always a possibility for another one of those 4 pounders. So I think my weight is probably maybe a little lighter than what I had yesterday, which was 16 pounds. So I would never say I'm confident with the weight. There's a lot of good fishermen out here, and I wouldn't be shocked at all to see 20-pound bags. So
Back to Smith, and he's hooked into a good one.
That's a big fish. That's one we need right there. That's a 3 pounder. All right.
3 pounder. Jim's making it a real run for the money. As time winds down, both anglers are whacking and stacking, looking for that one last kicker fish as 3 o'clock creeps ever closer. And it's the same story all over the lake. The bite's been good, and there are plenty of good bags out there. Everybody knows it's going to be tight.
Well, the day 2 weigh-in is going to begin shortly. I had a chance to get out on the water, take a run around, and see what the bite is like. And I can tell you what, it's a big improvement from day 1. I think we're going to see a real interesting weigh-in.
Time to wrap it up and boogie back to Timbuktu. And as the boats roll into the docks, the apprehension is running high. Time to bag them up for weigh-in, and it looks like everyone's done well. There are some fat ones coming out of the box. As Jeremy Keel checks in his bag, Brad Klein weighs in a nice bag of smallies.
Stayed on a brown fish for 11:02.
Brad was in 5th place after day 1, and today's catch brings his 2-day total to 24.50. Here's Corey Gutenfelder checking in, while on stage, Jeremy Keel is at the scales. He's been fishing largemouth in the slot both days.
Okay, you ended up with 12.38 for the day. You had see any big fish come blow up today?
That's a 2-day bag weight of 25.37, good enough for the lead. Jim Severson's on deck as Gutenfelder steps up to the plate.
Well, 12.07 total.
Not as heavy as Keel's bag, but with a 2-day total of 25.46, he squeaks into the top spot by just 9/100ths of a pound.
Is that what you're looking for?
But watch out, here comes Severson with a bulging bag.
Nice bag of fish, really good bag of fish. 15.64.
With a combined weight of 28.52, Jim blows into the lead by more than 3 pounds.
Oh, I see another big round coming in there.
Oh, listen to this, folks.
1785.
17.85.
Brad Leiferman has the best weight of the day so far. But unfortunately, a weak showing on day 1 keeps him out of the running. Back on the docks, the last few anglers are bagging up their fish. There's Brent Carlson. Jim Smith is unloading his horses, and Grant Miller's smallies are getting some oohs and ahs from the crowd. On stage, Doug Copeland's crankbait pattern scores big.
Ooh, really good bag of fish. How about 17.15?
After a tough first day, Doug's day 2 catch pulls him up to 2nd place with 26.88. It's getting down to the wire with only 4 contenders left to challenge the leader. Paul Lewis is up next.
13.12.
Nope, 1 challenger down, 3 to go. Good idea, Al. Let's get Jim Severson up on stage to sweat out his lead in front of the whole crowd.
All right, we got Brett Carlson is coming up. He needs to bump you right now. You're leading with 28.52. He needs 14.23.
Brent Carlson is next, but he's not looking very confident.
10.67. 10.67. You get to still stay up there, Jim.
Another one bites the dust, but here comes Jim Smith, and he's loaded for bear. Severson looks nervous as Smith's porky largemouth spin the scales.
Let's see here. He needs 14.02 to knock you off the throne here. I'd say it looks pretty possible.
Well, third's not bad.
Big bag, Jimmy. Big bag, man.
Yeah, we got into him today. Had Bob with me. He's my lucky charm. He can go with me anytime.
Okay, let's get away here a second, and then don't walk right off. Oh, look at him. He's hiding that. He's making you sweat, man. He's making you 1807. Big bag at a tournament.
So long, Mr. Severson. There's a new king of the hill with a 2-day bag of 32.58. Now there's only one challenger left. Grant Miller has a sack full of big smallies, and he's still smiling. These two guys have been duking it out all day long.
We need to have, to beat it, he needs 16.55. You got to beat 1779. There you go. Get up.
Miller's in for the win with a combined weight of 33.83. He'd stuck with his hot spot smallmouth for 2 whole days, working the drop shot to finesse the big fish off the deep rocks. By contrast, second place finisher Jim Smith had been working the shallow reeds and docks, pulling those lunker largemouth out from under the good old lucky fin. It was a battle to the end, and although Smith's day 2 bag was the best of the tournament, including a 5.27-pound lunker for big fish, he couldn't beat the spread. Congratulations, Grant. You are the man, the 2003 Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Champ. We'll be back with the championship wrap-up and a final word from Al right after this. To extend our thanks to the terrific folks at Timbuktu Resort and the entire Lake Vermilion Resort Association. Here's Al with Association Rep Doug Wintle.
On behalf of all of the folks at Gander Mountain, all of the sponsors, and I know all of the fishermen, we just sincerely want to thank you and the entire community here at beautiful Lake Vermilion for the hospitality that all of the fishermen have received. It's just been a real blessing to be here, man.
Well, Vermilion's just a great area to come to. There's a lot of friendly people, friendly resorts and businesses in the area. And we do appreciate, too, the Gander Mountain team coming to Lake Vermilion and highlighting the lake and showing people really what a fishery we have here. But not only the fishery, just the beauty of the lake is just so phenomenal that it's a place to come and see and to fish.
Well, that's about it from Lake Vermilion. From all of us here on the Gander Mountain Pro-Am Bass Tour, we'd like to say thanks for joining us. It's been a real pro-bass gas. But before we go, here's Al Lindner with some final thoughts.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this year's Gander Mountain Bass Tour. It was an exciting season, and what a way to wrap it up here on beautiful Lake Vermilion. We learned a lot, and we hope you learned a lot that'll help you have a more enjoyable, successful fishing season for bass in all of Minnesota's fine quality bass fishing lakes. Some of the best bass fishing in the country is sitting in your backyard. Hey, from all of us here at the tour, have a good, safe fishing season, and we'll see you next year.